Hi, everybody. We are on section 1.2, example 3, and we are working with a couple of extra questions like problems so that we can just make sure that we're grasping these two concepts. So we're doing order of operations again, and this time they're just showing you different strategies. They're showing you that fraction bar, which means division. However, when you're doing your order of operations, you want to solve everything that you see in the numerator first until you see one term. And then you do the same thing for the denominator until you see one term. For example, you just see in the denominator here a 2. So until you see that, then you can do the division, okay? So we're going to rewrite it. And it looks a little different when we do with the fractions, with that little division bar. Okay, so it looks like we have to still solve for that numerator, and 1 plus 3 is 4. So we're going to rewrite everything. 10 minus 4 over 2. And now I see that I can do division because a fraction bar means division. So 4 divided by 2 is 2. So we're going to write 10 minus 2, and your answer is 8. And that's how we solve with the fraction bar. So for problem B, the whole point of this question is to have you understand about the parentheses. Anything that you see with decimals, I will allow you to use a calculator right now, not to plug the entire problem in, but just to do each step, just because we didn't learn the decimals with multiplying and addition. So it looks like we have to do our order of operations. I'm going to circle my multiplication, division, my adding, subtracting. All right, so do we have parentheses? We do have parentheses, so we're going to do that first. So I'm going to rewrite the problem, but I'm going to underline first my parentheses. Okay, so I'm going to rewrite the problem. So 7 plus 5. You actually still need those parentheses, and that's what they're trying to teach you here. And then 8 minus 6.5 is 1.5. And then times 2 to the third power. And the reason why you need the parentheses is because if you don't put the parentheses, it would look like this. And that's not what it's saying. So what you want to know is when you have a number next to a parenthesis, it means multiplication. So you can either write it like that, or you can change it and you can write it with that raised dot that we just learned. So it's a raised dot, and then just be careful because the reason why they're not doing a raised dot is because you have decimals in this question. And sometimes the decimals, if you don't line them up correctly at the bottom, it could look like a raised dot and you won't know if you're multiplying or if it's a decimal. So this is why we're using the parentheses here. If there was no decimals, then you could absolutely just use the raised dots, okay? So this isn't wrong, but we're going to stick with the parentheses right now. Okay, so I'm going to change my color because we need to see what we're going to do next. So it does say parentheses is first, but there has to be an operation in those parentheses. For example, the 8, let's use my mouse, my 8 minus 6.5, there's an operation inside the parentheses. Here, it's just 1.5. There's no operation. So that's why it's telling you that these parentheses is multiplication. So that means parentheses is not the first. We're done there. So that's why we're going to go right to the exponents. So that's our next step. There we go. All right, so we're going to write 7 plus 5 times 1.5. And then they do the multiplication sign times. And remember, any work you do on the side. And then 2 to the third power is 2 times 2 times 2. And 2 times 2 is 4. And 4 times 2 is 8. So we're going to say times 8. All right, we're going to take our pen again here. And we're going to look to see what is our next step. So again, we said parentheses, but we're done with that. Exponents, we're done with that. So now we have to look at multiplication or division. So I'm looking here, and we have two forms of multiplication, 5 times 1.5 And then also 1.5 times 8. It's whatever comes first, left to right. So we're going to do 5 times 1.5 next. And because we haven't learned, you can do this in your calculator. So 7 plus, and 5 times 1.5 is 7.5 times 8. And then when you look again, we have addition and multiplication. So that means we're going to do multiplication first. And then that's 7 plus 60. And then 7 plus 60 is 67. And then that's your final answer.